Good evening. I'm Alex Fraser, producing director.
Hi, I'm Robin Goodman, executive producer.
And I'm Josh Fiedler, producer, and welcome to our second variety edition of Bucks County Playhouse Live.
We have a great show for you tonight with guests Mary Lou Henner, Ben Fankhauser, John Tartaglia, Matt Bauman, and Mason Reeves. But before we start all the fun, we just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all the great work being done by the Broadway and theater community in support of our nation's anti-racism campaign. We at the Bucks County Playhouse stand against all forms of racism, and we are using this time to listen, learn, and hopefully change.
And we'd like to thank the Broadway Advocacy Coalition for its Broadway for Black Lives Matter Again seminars this week, offering concrete steps that we can take going forward to make the theater an inclusive, safe environment for everyone.
On Friday's program, the great Tonya Pinkins said, to change minds, to change policy.
Can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Tonya Pinkins said, to change minds, to change policy, you have to change hearts. That's something the theater can do, telling stories that changes hearts. And that's our responsibility as theater makers.
We've begun to make some actionable steps, and we look forward to the long, hard work that will lead us to a theater and a society that is welcome to everyone in the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community, also known as BIPOC. We'll start by incorporating anti-racism training for all of our staff and to create a task force of artists, staff, and board members to ensure that the work continues.
We will also expand our search for new employees to ensure equal representation and expand our in-school programs in underserved communities to teach kids all the jobs that there are in the arts, and that they will also learn about the healing power of theater.
And we're going to raise funds to provide additional financial resources and travel reimbursements to attract young people of color to our on and off stage apprentice and internship programs. We invite you to join us in our efforts to ensure Bucks County Playhouse becomes a welcoming home for all artists and audiences. Tonight we have a co-host. He first came to us in 2017 as a rising sophomore and was one of 5 chosen to restart our acting apprenticeship program. He appeared in our 2017 production of Guys and Dolls and went on to star in Footloose at the Muni Opera and is now playing the leading role of Kristoff in the national tour of Disney's Frozen. Please welcome Mason Reeves.
Yay!
Hey! Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me back. Yeah, you know, Alex, when I was here, I formed such wonderful friendships with all of you. And so I'm just so glad that you guys have had me back. And when I found out that the show wasn't going to be back until January, I thought, what's the best place that I can spend the summer? And New Hope was the first place that came to mind so I could spend my time with you guys and all the lovely people in New Hope, all of you out there. But with all of that said, let's get on with the show, right? So please welcome Robin Goodman, who's already here, and the star of Broadway's Avenue Q and the director of the Playhouse's production of Mamma Mia, John Tartaglia. Enjoy.
Welcome to Tales from the Dressing Room, where we hear stories and interview alumni of the Bucks County Playhouse. Today we have a very special friend of mine, the star of Broadway's Avenue Q, and on TV, the star of Johnny and the Sprites, Word Party, and the Apple reboot of Frazzle Rock. Welcome the great and kind John Tartaglia. Hi, John, you're in California, right?
I am in California.
John, I hear you're from Pennsylvania. Is that true?
Yes, when I grew up till about 10 years old, I lived in New Jersey. I was from Maple Shade, New Jersey, South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. And then when I was 10, we moved to Ambler, Pennsylvania. So I lived from 10 years old till 18 in Ambler, Pennsylvania. So I've been like a tri-state boy, and then I moved to New York.
And was Avenue Q a big deal for you? Can you remember the beginning of Avenue Q and something fun about it?
I do remember
or
the beginning of
Avenue Q. Or something not so fun about it.
I have nothing but good memories. I actually really honestly have nothing but good memories. Yeah, Avenue Q was huge. I mean, I was always pursuing acting as myself when I wasn't, I moved to New York City at 18 to work on Sesame Street. That's why I moved to New York City. And as a puppeteer, and I loved puppetry, was what I wanted to do. That was my dream. But I also dreamt of being a Broadway performer. And I always thought they were two very separate paths. And when I wasn't puppeteering on Sesame Street, I was auditioning for theater, and I was doing tours and things like that. And I never thought that something would come along that would involve the two, like Avenue Q. So yeah, I remember that first call, getting that call to come do that reading, which I think you came to at the York Theater. That was like, we're doing this weird sketch show with puppets, and we're not sure what it's going to be. Again, it changed my life, and there it was.
Yeah, it changed my life too, by the way. Yeah. It was, I remember going up to the O'Neill and Ann Harada saying, "You're never going to take us to Broadway. You're going to hire stars. You're going to take another group of people." And I said, "Ann, we are taking every single one of you to Broadway."
You remember my joke, right?
And she didn't believe me.
No, because my joke was always you were going to replace me with like Neil Patrick Harris.
So, John, we all know you're a wonderful performer in everything you do, but recently you've transitioned to directing. How did that happen? Is it something you've always wanted to do?
I got called to do a director reading of a show, a new show that was in development, and I had never thought about directing. It wasn't something I was necessarily pursuing, but I was really intrigued by the show, and I was really intrigued by the idea of doing the show. It was a musical that involved live animals and kids, and it was just like all the things that people are usually scared of. I was like, well, that sounds like fascinating and bizarre. And so I started working on that, and I remember telling my mom. My mom's in the business; she's an actress, and I remember telling my mom, I said, "Yeah, I'm going to direct this thing." And I said, "I'm really kind of daunted by the idea of directing." And she goes, "Well, honey, you've been directing since you were a kid." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You used to direct all your backyard shows." And then I realized like puppetry is very much, you're kind of your own director with puppetry oftentimes too. And so I just kind of started, I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of true. So I just kind of dove in. And then thankfully, Mike Isaacson at the Muni gave me my first really huge break directing Shrek the Musical there. And it just kind of took off from there. And then I've just been directing ever since. And I really love it. It's such a rewarding thing to do. It's a different kind of creation than performing is, but there's something so rewarding standing at the back of a theater and watching an idea in your head come to life. I just love it.
Well, we loved your production that you directed of Mamma Mia at Bucks County.
Thank you.
It was hugely popular. What was your experience at Bucks County Playhouse like?
Well, when I was living
John, only say good things, okay?
Well, the producer. No, you know what? Growing up in Pennsylvania, everyone knew about the Bucks County Playhouse. It was a legendary place. When I heard you were involved with Bucks County Playhouse, that was, of course, intriguing to me. And it was so much fun. It just felt like it was this wonderful little secret place to be creating with Shannon, my amazing choreographer, Shannon Lewis. We just had such fun, just like being there on the river, and I mean, it's the most idealistic place to be. It's so beautiful and gorgeous there, and the support we had was incredible, and that cast was amazing, and I don't know. Also, Mamma Mia is such a fun summer show, so I have such a positive. To me, it's like when I hear that music now, when I hear the Mamma Mia or ABBA music, I just immediately think of that production. So it's nothing but good memories now. I saw it on Broadway, and I definitely had a great time, but I kind of felt like they just kind of skirted over the heart of the show, and I think that story is so universal, and so I think that was my big thing going into this production, was like finding the heart of the musical and really bringing that out, because everyone's going to have a good time dancing to Dancing Queen, and everyone's going to have a fun time laughing at the jokes, but if you don't feel something, then what's the point of spending 2.5 hours in a theater, right? You want to be feeling something powerful. So I was proud of the fact we could find the heart of it. That was important to me.
Beautifully done, John. Thank you so much for being with us today. I love everything you do. And I understand you're coming back in a couple of weeks with one of our favorite characters from Avenue Q, Rod.
Oh, I hear that he might be making an appearance. I hear, yeah, he's pretty cooped. He's cooped up. He's cooped up. Rod's been in a box for a long time. Right? Right?
Thanks again, John.
All right. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. I love you too.
Thank you, John.
Bye.
Thanks, Johnny. I still think about that production of Mamma Mia. It was just so much fun, and crazy circumstance of events. Johnny was talking about how his mom told him initially that he could be a director. Before I moved to New York in 2003 and I got my job with Robin, and obviously have worked on Avenue Q over the years, I worked with Johnny's mom at this theater called City Theater in Miami, Florida, where she was telling stories about how her son got cast in this show that involved puppets going to Broadway. And it's just crazy how the world, the circle of the world that goes around. But now I'd like to introduce our next segment, which is Broadway star of Newsies and our production of I Hate Hamlet. Here's Ben Fankhauser singing a Bobby Darin classic.
Hello, my beloved Bucks County Playhouse. It's Ben Fankhauser. You might remember me from the 2018 production of I Hate Hamlet, starring Elizabeth Ashley and Tom Hewitt and others, and I just want to say what a great time I had with that show. You'll remember lots of sword fighting and comedy and Shakespeare, and what a great few months I had in New Hope. It was around Thanksgiving time. My family got to visit. We all just fell in love with the town. I think I had breakfast at Fred's Diner every other day, I would say. And I even got to play poker with some of the locals at Triumph Brewery, and I got to meet George, the guy that owns the jewelry store around the corner from the theater. And I can't say enough positive things about my experience in New Hope. And I'm so happy to be with you all today. And I'm coming at you live from my apartment in New York City. And, I was thinking about how much I like to travel in the summer months, and how that's probably not in the cards for me this year, but that I can daydream anyway. And it reminded me of the classic Bobby Darin tune. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there waiting for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to her arms I'd go sailing. It's far, yes it's far, beyond the star, it's near, beyond the moon. I know, beyond a doubt, my heart will lead me there soon. 'Cause I'd love to get you on a slow boat to China, all to myself alone. Get you and keep you in my arms evermore. Well, I am sending you all warm wishes out there. I cannot wait to come visit New Hope very soon and be back with all of you. And in the meantime, be well, stay healthy, and take care of one another. Mwah.
Here we are at the deck, which reopened on Friday. Fortunately, the Department of Health came by and said because of these glorious huge windows and the fans and the air that comes in, we're able to be considered an outdoor restaurant. And we're so excited to see folks again. And I'm especially excited to see this one again. So Mason was in our first group of apprentices in 2017. So tell us, has New Hope changed since 2017?
Yeah, has New Hope changed? I mean, this whole restaurant has changed. Every time I come back and I'm blown away by how beautiful it is and how spectacular this view of the river is. I'm like, I just can't believe it.
So what brings you back?
I was just doing Frozen. I just finished it up, and we were in Portland in March, and the show closed, and we thought, you know, for COVID, it was just going to be a couple months, and it turns out that we might not be back until January. I thought, you know, where can I go? Where have I been? And I got these connections here, and so I was like, New Hope is the most beautiful place in the world, and so let's go spend the summer that's less hot.
So how is that program helpful to you in your career?
Yeah, so as you remember, right, we were the first apprentices, and how many years was it? Like
probably 20
years. Yeah, I mean, it's been invaluable. So the training aside, right, it was great to be working with all those Broadway people in a difficult rehearsal process. So it was great to learn that from an apprentice sort of position of it's okay if I make a mistake, but also the expectations are very high, so still live up to them. And then the people that I've met and worked with, like Lizzie Margarita and Hunter Foster, who I worked with again the next year, he came to Michigan and directed a show, and Darius DeHaas, who is somebody that I've looked up to my whole life, was in that show. It was just amazing watching these masters practice their craft, and me as a freshman after my first year of college to see people really doing it professionally. There was nothing like it.
So after you left us, you were cast as the lead in Footloose.
Yes.
At the Muni Opera in St. Louis. And so then it was just a few months later that the opportunity to audition for Disney came up with Frozen.
Frozen reached out to me at the end of my junior year of college, and that was 2 months after I'd been cast in Footloose, and they just announced it. And so Disney flew me to New York to audition. And I auditioned for just one whole long day because they tried to get everybody in there at once because they've been looking for Kristoff for a while. Yeah, then they ended up calling me the next day with the part.
So these two parts, the role in Frozen and Footloose, were originally not written for actors of color.
You know, Footloose specifically, the story, you know, as everybody knows, Footloose, Kevin Bacon shows up in this town and everybody doesn't like him for seemingly no reason. It's a little rambunctious and that sort of thing. And Christian Borle, who directed that, he saw it and he was like, this needs to be a person of color. This role is written for a person of color. A guy from Chicago that comes to a small town and people don't like him for no reason. It was interesting speaking with him because I was like, oh, you know, I want to reimagine it. I want to push the boundaries. I want to go further and further and further. And he was totally on board with it. And then every once in a while, he was like, the important thing is the story is central. And the audience is falling in love with you as this character is really what's going to push what you hope for forward. All these people in St. Louis, these white folks or anybody that are coming to see the show who maybe don't have a black person in their life that they love and that they are close to, they get to see the show and watch you face adversity and help this whole town learn how to love each other and get over grief and dance and celebrate. And they themselves get to fall in love with you, and then they can look around themselves and their own communities and say, that's just like that kid that I saw in that show that I loved. And so just remember how beautiful that is.
So actually, like Footloose, you're coming to New Hope this summer is a little bit like that, as we are doing a lot of listening and learning about the Black Lives Matter movement and figuring out how we as a theater can respond appropriately and do better and perform a real service for our community and our artists.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy to be here and working with you guys. And thank you for asking me to work with you. And, you know, because it's such a tumultuous time in American history. And it's exciting that so many more people are on board and excited to make changes and to grow and learn. And so I'm just so thankful that you guys are excited to do that and happy that you have asked me to help out. So
it's an honor for us.
Yes.
It's wonderful to have Mason back in our fold, as you say. He's our visiting artist this summer. And Now back to Tales from the Dressing Room, where the wonderful Mary Lou Henner catches up with Josh and talks about her original role in Broadway's Grease. Mary Lou.
Welcome back to Tales from the Dressing Room, and we're so excited to welcome back Mary Lou Henner. Hi, Mary Lou.
Hi, Josh.
We teased last week we were going to talk about Grease, and you were part of the original production. So can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Sure. Well, I grew up in this dancing school, and as I told you all last week, that you know, people would call the dance studio from community theaters and colleges and high schools, and the kids in the dancing school would go and do shows. So I became part of the whole Chicago theater system. And when I was 15 years old, I did a production at Hull House of The Boyfriend, and really bonded with all of my castmates. Well, one of the guys that I really got close to, and he was in the advertising agency, and I was a junior in high school. I was a sophomore when we met. And he called me one day and he said, Henner, I've written this show. It may never get off the ground. I wrote it about the people I went to high school with. You always reminded me of the girls I went to school with. He said, and we're going to perform it in a converted trolley barn. I don't know what's going to happen with it. And it's called Grease. I was like, okay, that sounds a lot of fun. Now, I was the little Miss Goody Two-Shoes at Madonna High School. So for me to go and play a greaser was something so completely foreign to me. We teased our hair. We put razor blades in it. We'd walk through the audience and step on people's hands. You know, it was like crazy. It was so intense. And the first rehearsal, we walked in and there were two stacks of papers in front of each of the actors. One was songs and the other one was scenes. And Jim Jacobs, my friend, passed out the papers and he said, okay, let's read the book report scene. Okay, let's read the polio shot scene. Let's read the penny pitching scene, the pajama party scene, the lunchroom scene, and so on and so on. And over the course of a few weeks, we fashioned it into Grease. And I got to sing Freddie, My Love, and I played the part of Marty. And in the Chicago production, she was with Judy. In the Broadway production, she ended up with Sonny. But anyway, so there were all these different characters, and it was 75% scenes and 25% songs. So the show, people from New York saw it, Ken Wasteman and Maxine Fox and Tom Moore, they saw the show, and they decided to bring it to New York. Some of the people were asked to come and audition. I was one of them, but I had just started at the University of Chicago. My father had passed away a few months earlier, and I decided that it wasn't a good time in my life. And truthfully, I didn't think it was going to be a hit. I thought, I know. I thought it's such a Chicago production, the feel of it and everything else. So I just didn't think it was going to be a hit. So I didn't go. And I saw the show, and of course, on a spring break, and I was kicking myself in the ass, you know, but whatever. So here I was at the University of Chicago, and one day I get a phone call from Jim Jacobs, and he said, Henner, the first national tour starts tomorrow, and we've saved your part, the part of Marty, for you, but you have to come to New York and audition for it. And I said, Jim, I have 2 papers due. I'm in a relationship. I'm in a show in 2 weeks. I have 2 roommates. I'm, you know, in school. I just can't do it. I'm so sorry. And I hung up the phone. And I went to the library to go do my papers. And something happened that day that never happened before. My car, and I'd parked it the night before, my car was parked in front of the library. So I thought, oh my gosh, is this a sign from God? And I looked at my car, looked at the library, looked at my car, looked at the library, looked at my car, the library, threw my books in the car, went to O'Hare Field, flew student standby, auditioned, and I got the part.
Wow.
So I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm not down at University of Chicago. I just flew to New York today on a whim and auditioned for the role of Marty in Grease. I got the part and I'm going to do it. And she was like, oh, Mary, I'm so happy. You could have been a doctor. You could have been anything. I'm so happy. So my mother, I totally had her blessing. So they didn't let me go home right away. I had to go to the first rehearsal the next day. And I walked into the rehearsal room. And in that room, Jeff Conaway was playing Danny. Judy Kaye was playing Rizzo. Jerry Zaks was playing Kenickie. Michael Lembeck was playing Sonny. Johnny Travolta was playing Judy, and rehearsing with us for the London company to play Danny was Richard Gere. And, you know, Johnny and I were like the two youngest in the group. Everybody else was like 4 or 5 years older than we were, but I just couldn't believe it. And I signed my equity card that day, and that was it. The rest is history.
It's an amazing story. That group of people, pretty incredible, huh?
You kind of knew there was a feeling about that group that you just thought, oh, this one's so great. Yeah, I mean, and Jerry was so unbelievable about directing even back then. So, you know, you felt like something was, he was going to do great. You just felt everybody was earmarked for success. And the only little advantage I had over anyone is that I knew the material so well, having done the original company. But there was no turning back for me. And the Grease family, oh my gosh, we're still close to this day. We are still really, really close. So it's a family.
Do you maybe have a message for the Bucks County family during this time?
You know, theater is always going to survive no matter what. And it's so special to have, the church of the theater is in Bucks County Playhouse. It's such a beautiful structure and city, and everybody's in it for the right reasons. And you just feel like no matter what, it's going to survive. So just please support it as much as you possibly can. Go out on the deck and have lunch or take out or whatever you do. It's going to be open this summer. And just as soon as we all get back in action, please come and see us, because there's nothing like it. It's a magical place. The planets have aligned themselves properly over Bucks County Playhouse. And I just feel so lucky to be part of it all.
And we're lucky to have you as part of the family. So thank you so much, Mary Lou.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Mary Lou.
Bye. Bye.
Indeed, we are lucky to have Mary Lou, who's a great board member of Bucks County Playhouse. Thank you, darling. I love hearing stories from people's history, and I love hearing stories from our history. And here, with stories from the Playhouse history, is noted historian, theater historian, museum curator, David Leopold, with stories from our Nelson and Betty Fund Playhouse Archive.
Hi, my name is David Leopold, and I am lucky enough to be working with the Playhouse on their archival project that is sponsored by the Nelson and Betty Fund Foundation. We all think we know the history of the Playhouse, but when I organized an exhibition for the James A. Michener Art Museum in 2013, we discovered how little we did know. A lot of stories that were apocryphal turned out not to be true. And then the stories that were true were more incredible than we even understood. What we're trying to do with the archive project is to document everything that has gone on at the Playhouse, not only what shows have gone on, but who have played here. So I want to start off by showing a piece from the very first night of the Bucks County Playhouse. You know, this is an arts colony, and it's not surprising that an internationally recognized artist would be at the opening of the Playhouse. Fortunately for us, it was the artist Al Hirschfeld who had come down to see the opening. And the following Sunday, on the front page of the New York Times drama section, was a Hirschfeld drawing of the scene outside the Playhouse before it opened. And for those of you who really know your history, you'll know that they had to delay the opening because they weren't done constructing the Playhouse until literally the moments before the first show started. And Hirschfeld captures a lot of the celebrities that are up front. You'll see George Kaufman and Moss Hart. The woman standing next to them is Beatrice Kaufman. She so hated this portrait, she insisted that the New York Times fire Hirschfeld. Fortunately for Hirschfeld, cooler heads prevailed because the drawing looked exactly like her. The Playhouse changed New Hope immediately. It went from a sleepy river town into a town that had 400 people coming into it a night. The New Hope that we know now, with the restaurants, galleries, and shops, is a product of the Playhouse. And in 1942, it looks like the Playhouse has to close. The gas was rationed and rubber was a real big issue, rubber for tires. People were too excited about the Playhouse to let it close. It moved down into Philadelphia to the Bellevue Stratford Hotel. And for the summers of 42, 43, and 44, the Bucks County Playhouse was actually in downtown Philadelphia. But they tried to make it look like the Playhouse by decorating the ballroom with branches and leaves and flowers to give it that country feel. We all know that Robert Redford is one of those names you often hear with the Playhouse. The show you hear him being talked about is Barefoot in the Park, the Neil Simon play that premiered here at the Playhouse with Robert Redford as the male lead and really was the start of his career. Would you be surprised to learn that 4 years earlier, Robert Redford got his first leading man role here at the Bucks County Playhouse in 1959 for a unusual play, Tiger at the Gates, a Jean Giraudoux play that had been a big hit on Broadway the season before. Redford was a little skeptical. He thought that summer theaters were really play school. And then he learned that it was actually a good training ground and that, in fact, it was the farmyard to Broadway. That convinced Redford to come down and play the part. For the Bucks County Playhouse Archive, we're looking for everything. If you've got a program, a photograph, a ticket stub, some merchandise that the Playhouse had made at any time, if you're an actor or an actress who has a particular memory about doing something at the Playhouse, we want to know all those. Please contact the Playhouse with the information you can see on the screen, and hopefully we can add your story or your object to the Bucks County Playhouse Archive.
You know, it's so interesting to hear how the Playhouse in its history has continually come up against adversity, but every time it's found a way to overcome it. And that's so comforting right now as we sit in our own moment of uncertainty to know that we can find a way to overcome it. And that makes me feel hopeful, and I hope it does for you too. And honestly, what's more hopeful than tap dancing? Now I'd like to introduce two-time Bucks County performer, Matt Bauman. He was in our productions of National Pastime and 42nd Street. He's now going to do a performance for you that's choreographed actually by Josh Rhodes from his production of Mac and Mabel at City Center. Josh Rhodes directed and choreographed our concert version of Showboat. So I'm so happy to bring to you right now, Matt Bauman.
Hi, I'm Matt Bauman. Perhaps you remember me from 2 performances at Bucks County Playhouse, National Pastime, and more recently 42nd Street, where I played Andy Lee. I'm so excited to be performing for you today at the Playhouse Live Variety Show. I'm sad that Bucks County Playhouse is not open, but I can't wait for it to reopen and can't wait to see the amazing theater that they always produce there. 2 very fun memories I have of working at Bucks County Playhouse include food. I'm gonna go there. We would wake up in the morning and eat at Fred's Breakfast, then we'd walk over to Lambertville where we'd shop for antiques and one of my favorite stores, Foxy Red's. And then we'd walk back over the bridge and we'd eat at the New Hope Ferry Marketplace where we'd carb load before our performance of 42nd Street. And then after the show, we'd go to Wawa and then go back to our places where we would play games until the wee hours of the morning. Even one night, another fun memory, we dressed up in drag. I don't know whose idea it was mine. We had so much fun. I won't say that we terrorized the town of New Hope. We made a lasting impression and ended up at the Raven, may it rest in peace, where we had so much fun meeting the locals and just having a gay old time. Again, I can't wait to be back at the Bucks County Playhouse, but until then, I'm going to perform a little tap dance for you for the Playhouse Live Variety Show. Enjoy. From Mac and Mabel, don't forget to tap your trebles away.
Amazing.
Wow, isn't he great?
Yeah.
He's so great. Little known fact, Alex, that's actually how I wake up every morning. I just wake into that.
Right out of bed.
Yeah, right out of
Better than coffee. Better than
Well,
coffee.
anyway, everyone, that is the end of our show for tonight. Next week at this time, we will have another thrilling segment of Storytelling Live, hosted by Michaela Murphy and Ophira Eisenberg.
And this Playhouse live variety show will return in 2 weeks on June 28th, co-hosted by our friend Justin Guarini. And we would like to just take a special moment to thank our producers, Michael Troutman and Jeremy Ellinger. Thank you, guys.
And big special thanks to our season sponsor, Bank of America, to our annual fund donors. You know, Bucks County, we're hoping, is going to go green on the 26th. And we've got plans to show films and get the Playhouse open as soon as we can with music performances in July and August. Everything we do, all of our community programming is thanks to support from viewers like you. So please, if you'd like to make a donation, go to our website, buckscountyplayhouse.org.
Thank you all.
Good. There it is. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Good
Good night.
night.